This happened to me about 2 years ago when I was 17. My family went out for the day to go shopping for food and I stayed home alone. I was in my room, playing games on my PC with my headphones on, and I always keep my door closed. So after about an hour, I get up to go use the bathroom. Both the bathroom and my room are on the second floor, and our house at the time was a 2-story detached house in West Belfast, Northern Ireland. So when I get back to my room, I remember closing the door and continuing to play games. About 30 minutes later, I go to check my phone, but realize I left it in the bathroom. I get up to go get it and notice my door is open slightly ajar. Now my house isn't drafty and I know the door is good and doesn't just open due to wind or whatever, so it catches me off guard. But I reason that I probably just didn't close it all the way and head out to get my phone. I came back and continued to play, making sure I closed the door on my way back in. Sometime later, I hear my family come back home. I hear them bringing the first load of shopping into the kitchen and go out to the car to get more. When they come back and they call my name and I head downstairs. When I came down, I saw that the back patio door was lying wind open. They asked me was I out the back at any point while they were away, and I told them I hadn't. We looked outside and saw one of the deck chairs was pulled over to a lower part of the fence, facing a small area of woodland leading into another street, obviously not where it should be. This shocked me. My mind raced with idea of what the hell was going on. This is my own personal theory. Somebody had managed to get in, most likely through the back door. They had went to see if the house was clear. Went upstairs, opened my door and saw me. Then they must have decided to wait downstairs for some reason, maybe thinking I would leave or they could ambush me, but had gotten scared of and hid when my family returned, using the fact they had left the kitchen to go bring in more shopping to slip out as fast as they could, and used the chair to get over the fence. Even with this idea, I don't understand why they would risk coming in, given that it was the middle of the day. Plus, if they had seen I had headphones on, why not just come up behind me and deal with me then? The worst thing about it is I have no concrete proof of what happened that day. I have no idea why someone came in, how they got in, who they were. But one thing I feel certain in is that somebody did come in my house that day. There's more to this story though. A week or so later, it's late at night, around 2 a.m.-ish, and I'm in my room playing games. While playing, I end up drifting off to sleep. I am woken up by my mom coming and shaking me, asking if I was outside. I told her no, I've been here all night. I was asleep. She explains to me that while she was lying in bed, she heard the back door slap, and as her room was just above the kitchen and back door, she felt the shake of the slam. My stepdad was working night shift at the time, so it was only me, my mom and sister in the house. I go downstairs to check to see if everything's okay. The door is wide open. Our back garden was in pitch black darkness, so not knowing if anyone was out there, I closed and locked the door and looked around the garden from the inside with a torch. I don't see anyone outside and decide to stay downstairs for a few hours, keeping a lookout. The next day we changed the locks. The strange thing about both of these instances is that nothing was stolen, none of our things were missing, and it seemed that nothing had been really moved or any drawers looked through. I have absolutely no explanation for this, and to this day it baffles me. We had discussed getting the police invoked, but we felt that because there was no serious evidence of a crime taking place, and that we would be moving out of that house in a matter of weeks, we decided there wouldn't really be anything that they could do to help, so we just had our locks changed and made absolutely sure to keep things locked and watched until we had moved out. If anybody has any ideas of what had actually happened, please feel free to get in touch, as I have absolutely no idea what to make of any of this. My mom used to date sketchy guys when I was a teenager. I didn't live with her much because she was a horrible role model, so my grandmother raised me for a big chunk of my life. I'm thankful for that because she taught me so many values and how to be a lady. I later moved in with my dad and stepmom and half-siblings when I was 15 and had a wonderful life with them. When I was 14, I lived with my mother and her skeezy boyfriend. Dale, for a year in the upper half of a duplex. Her boyfriend had this friend that would come over very occasionally that looked just like the white guy from the Jerky Boys. Same hair too. He creeped me out because he would always stare at me, and I would always catch him creepily staring at my ass and breasts. My aunt lived down the block that I would visit quite frequently because she was the cool aunt. She was in her 20s, super fun and really pretty, and she had a 1969 Firebird convertible that we would drive around in and blast Aerosmith. So, with that said, I saw her brother-in-law, Jeff, quite a bit because he was renting out her basement. I thought he was kinda weird, but an okay guy. So, one night, at about midnight, I was home alone, and I get a knock on the door. Our door had a square glass panel towards the top that was painted over with a little peephole scratched in the paint. I look through and it's my aunt's in-law Jeff. I open the door and I'm like, oh hey, what's up? He asks me if my mom or Dale, mom's boyfriend, is home. I said no, mom was at work and God knows where Dale is. Then he asked me to come downstairs because he wanted to talk to me. I trusted him because I considered him family, and I was also pretty timid and didn't like saying no to people. So, I follow him downstairs to the front porch. I see his car parked and still running on the street with the headlights on, and sitting in the passenger seat with the window rolled down was the jerky boy looking dude that hung out with my mom's boyfriend. Jeff was like, hey, we want to talk to you. We want to ask you something, and he started to gently guide me to the car. My adrenaline started pumping, and I all of a sudden felt that something wasn't right. I stopped and pulled back a little and tried my best to not look scared. Jeff kept talking sweetly, running his finger up my shoulder to fix my spaghetti strap and saying it's okay, just come closer to me, and I pulled away politely and said it was okay, he can ask me right here. He kept sweetly trying to convince me to just come to the car so we could just talk, and said that if I was so scared, I could just stand in front of the headlights. The second he said stand in front of the headlights, my stomach did a leap and my whole body started to feel electrically charged because I knew if I was to stand in front of the headlights, I would not be able to see and it would distract me, thus making it easy for one of them to grab me. I knew right at that moment I was in a very dangerous situation. So I started acting ditzy and dumb because I was afraid that if they thought that I was thinking they were trying to do something that would land them in prison, he would just grab me right there, cover my mouth and drag me to the car so I wouldn't tell on him. I started to playfully joke around and said that I wasn't wearing shoes and I didn't want to step in dog poop. Then I see Jerky Boy start to come out of his car, and then I just sprinted into the house, ran up the stairs, and locked the door. I was shaking so bad. Then the Jerky Boy knocks on the door like a minute later, and he's looking through the makeshift peephole. He starts saying that he needs to talk to my mom's boyfriend. I say that he wasn't home, so he goes away from the door, but I didn't hear him go down the stairs. Then 30 seconds later, Jeff comes up and knocks and is talking through the door saying that he needed to talk to my mom's boyfriend, and he tries to open the door, but it's locked. I said that he wasn't home again. Jeff starts saying things like, I'm sorry we scared you, honey. We just wanted to talk to you and ask about your mom and Dale and other bullshit excuses. I was scared that they were going to try to kick the door in, so I decided that I was going to try to sneak out the back. I walked towards the back door, and thank God I looked out the back window first because I saw Jerky Boy standing downstairs at the back door. Jeff was at the front door sweet talking me, and his friend was waiting by the back door. I know what you're probably thinking right now hearing this. Call the cops. I don't know why I didn't. I think it was because I was so naive and timid, and this guy was my uncle. I was also questioning myself and my judgment because Jeff kept reassuring me at the front door. I go to the front door and Jeff is still there talking to me and telling me that he felt bad for scaring, etc. And I tell him through the door, trying my best to disguise any hint of fear, that it was okay, that I was sorry I got spooked, and that it wasn't his fault, and I just tried my best to placate him and convince him that I believed him. They eventually left, and once the coast was clear, I snuck out and ran to my friend's house next door. I didn't tell them anything, just said that I was scared and wanted to stay there until my mom came home. I did tell my mom though. But nothing really happened, and I thankfully moved to my dad's house 45 miles away 3 months later. I never saw him again. When I look back at it years after it happened, I realized that not only were they most likely going to sexually assault me, they were also most likely going to kill me and dispose of my body to make sure they never got caught. That realization made me sick. This encounter happened when I was about 10 years old. My sister and I were home alone since it was during the summer. Both our mom and grandmother were busy, so they could not stay home with us. We were used to being home alone during the summer, so it was not a big deal. The only thing we could not do was go outside or open the door if someone knocked. During this day, I had gotten up and started to play The Sims 2 in our kitchen. My sister was watching TV in our den. A few hours into gaming, I thought I heard the doorbell ring. At first, I thought it was my game, but I had turned off the sound. So I asked my sister if she heard the doorbell. She replied she hadn't. She said it was probably just the show she was watching. I brushed it off and went back to playing my game. About 10 minutes later, I see a reflection on my computer of a man in a suit. His hands cupped around his eyes, looking through the glass doors behind me. I turn around to be face to face with this strange man I had never seen before. I had no idea how long he had been watching me. He waved at me like he knew me from somewhere. I called my sister's name, who had not noticed the man yet. She grabs the house phone, quickly calling our grandmother. Now we had seen salespeople before. None of them looked like this guy. He was wearing a full-on black suit that did not fit him. If not strange enough that this guy was wearing a full-on suit in 99 degrees, he was also carrying a briefcase. All the salespeople I had seen only ever had a clipboard or maybe a couple flyers, but this man had a briefcase. The next flag that came with this guy. He walked around our house to come to the back door, which during his little trip he would have seen there wasn't a car in the driveway, indicating no one was home. As I was getting up to hide, the man reached down and grabbed the doorknob. He started to jiggle it forcefully. Thankfully, the door was locked. He looks at me smiling, gestured at me to come unlock the door for him. All the noise he had been making had now set off our 75-pound lab mix, making her go batshit crazy. No way she was gonna let the guy get to us if he did get in. My sister tells me our grandmother is on her way, and she wanted us to hide in the back of the house in her room until she could get home. My sister hands me the phone, then runs into the kitchen to grab the biggest knife we have. I can hear her yelling at the guy that we called the cops. She comes back into the room with me, and we shut the door. She tells me after she lied to the guy about calling the cops, she said that he started laughing like she just told the funniest joke he had ever heard. A little while later, we hear the door open and my grandmother calling us. We come out to meet her. She tells us she did not see a man anywhere in sight. She had walked around the whole house before unlocking the door. She also thought it was weird if he was a salesperson, he would have left a note saying, "Sorry, we missed you." She ended up taking the rest of the day off to stay with us. Also, so she could watch to see if the man would come back around. It's been 11 years since this encounter, and I still don't want to know what was in his briefcase.